Hi, and thanks for joining me. Some while back I recorded a piece to camera about my anchor. Having recorded it, I realised I had made quite an omission and I sort of thought, well, I can't use that footage, I'll have to do it all over again. But having thought about it, I think I can probably merge that footage in with the footage I'm about to take. The boat came with an anchor. I've never actually moved it from its location at all. It's in the engine bay. I've been sorting out the tackle that goes with the anchor, as at some stage this year I hope to go cruising on a river, and it is recommended that if you cruise on a river you have an anchor. So I'm going to combine the footage that I've already got with what I'm about to record and explain about the use of the anchor and so forth. Now, I'm not qualified in any way, I know nothing about anchors, but I have done quite a bit of research and spoken to people about it. So what I'm about to say is my interpretation. I'm going to talk to you about my anchor, as later in the year I'm planning to cruise on a river. It is recommended that if you're cruising on a river, you have an anchor with you. So I thought it was about time I looked at my anchor tackle, as it were. I have a Danforth Anchor, which is tucked away in the engine bay. I've never actually dragged it out to have a close look at it, but I will be doing that. I think it's one that weighs 14 kilos. The weight is stamped on the side, but I can't actually see the side it's stamped on because it's away from me. To the anchor you attach a chain, and to the chain you attach a warp. The two together, in my understanding, are called the anchor cable or the rode. Now, I'm not qualified to talk about anchors, cables or anything else, but I am trying to find out for my own benefit what the rules are and how it all works. And it's very difficult, I have to say, to do so. The Boater's Handbook, published by the Canal and River Trust, is fairly silent. All it says is that if you're going to cruise on a river, you should have an anchor. So why do you need an anchor on a river? There are two main reasons I can think of, and there could well be many more. One is that you're at risk of going over a weir. If the water level is higher than usual, the weir will be running faster, and so you could be pulled into it. But most weirs are protected by a line of floating buoys that should help prevent you from going over. And the other is that you've inadvertently got caught in floodwaters. After a lot of rainfall, the rivers can flood. There are floodlocks along various canals to keep you safe when you're on the canal side of the river. As I said, it's not a topic I really know much about, but I'm trying to make sure I'm fully equipped for going on the river. And for that, I need to make sure that my anchor is in sound condition and the anchor cable that is attached to it. One of the issues that could put you at risk or in peril when on a river would be if your engine was to break down. In that event, you wouldn't be able to maneuver the boat or cruise, and if the current was strong, then you may get taken with it without having much chance of steering your boat and guiding it. And if you are close to a weir, then you may feel the need to deploy your anchor for your own safety. Now, it's very difficult to get any advice as to what length of anchor cable you actually need. I've done quite a bit of research, and it's been suggested that it should be 5 to 8 times the depth of the water. I've seen 3 to 7 times quoted. Now, I said earlier the anchor cable is actually made up of two parts. One is the chain and one is the warp. Now, I have a chain that is 24 foot long. And why is it a chain and not all rope, for example? Well, the idea of having a chain is that once it's at the bottom of the water, it could get snagged on something, and that's what you don't want. A chain is unlikely to snag. The other thing is that it adds weight to the anchor. So what length should the warp be, the part that is attached to the chain? It's very difficult, and no one can actually advise you because they don't know where you're cruising or what the depth of the rivers are. So it's a tricky one. You have to make your own assessment. As I said, my chain is about 24 foot long. That's just over 7 meters. I do have a warp that I found on the boat. This is a warp that was on the boat. I found this the other day when I was looking. And I thought, well, that's good. And I measured this, and this is 27 feet, which is just over 8 meters. And I thought, well, it's nice and thick. It's got the end for connecting. The other end does need a loop fitted onto it. But I've made some inquiries, and it turns out that this is the wrong material. This is more of a polypropylene, and the trouble with polypropylene is that it actually floats. What you need is a warp that will sink in the water, and it also has to have a little bit of stretch, and this material doesn't stretch. So I have ordered a new warp of 11 meters, which is about 34 feet, a little bit more than that. So together my anchor cable is going to be in the order of 59 or 60 feet, say 18-19 meters. Is that right? Is that wrong? I don't know. Now, if you do have to deploy an anchor, it's because you're in an emergency situation. Where do you deploy it from on your boat? I've done a lot of research on this, and there are two schools of thought, it seems to me. Some say it depends on the way the river is flowing, because if you deploy it from the opposite end of the flow, as it were, the boat will swing round. But others say it should always be deployed from the bow of the boat. Now, on the bow of my boat is a special anchor point. There isn't one on the stern. If you deploy your anchor from the stern of the boat, there is a risk that it could pull the boat under and flood it with water. That's because the stern tends to be lower than the bow. The Danforth Anchor is specially designed. You don't chuck it out the boat, you lower it into the water, and the teeth on that, when the boat pulls, should dig into the riverbed and hold the boat firm. Once you've deployed an anchor, it's unlikely that you will retrieve it, because hopefully it's done its job, it's caught onto the riverbed. How are you going to get it out? So an anchor really is a last resort in an emergency, and it's a one-off sort of usage to my way of thinking. Or should I have said it's a first resort in an emergency? I've not heard of any tales regarding anchors being used, so I really have no knowledge. And I would emphasize, as I said before, that I have no authority on the subject of anchors. I'm just talking about what I've studied and what my understanding is. Certainly on my boat, I think I would launch the anchor from the bow. That is where the anchor point is fitted. I'm sure a lot of you will respond and tell me I've got it all wrong, or I haven't quite got it right. But I'm always wanting to learn. I'm sure others are wanting to learn as well. So if I have said anything that's fundamentally flawed, please let me know so I can issue a correction. I need to take the anchor out, not only to look at it and make sure there's nothing wrong with it, but also I will be doing some more painting in the engine bay where the anchor is situated. So I'm going to carry on now and remove the anchor so we can all have a look at it. I can't see any weight stamped on it. The others I've looked at in shops and that, I've got the mark on the side here. Yes, it is 14 kilos as I thought. This hasn't faded sufficiently for it to be wiped out. You can just see the chain down here. I won't pull that out now, but I will show you the warp that I've bought. Well, it does have the weight stamped on it. We can see a 1 and a 4, so it's 14 kilos. And the make is probably Brittany. This is where I'm going to paint next. The Brittany Anchor is produced by Plastimo. The Brittany is the only flat anchor with a shank designed not to foul, preventing the anchor from breaking out from the seabed. So there you have it. This is the anchor warp that I've bought. It is 11 meters long. It has an eye at one end to attach to the shackle to connect it to the chain. At the other end it has a soft shackle. This will go round the little eye on the bow of the boat. It's made of nylon and it's 14 millimeters thick. So I'm quite pleased with that. The other rope that I had was not suited for its purpose as it would float. The important thing with nylon is it doesn't float, it sinks, and you do need your anchor cable to sink. So my anchor is of the Danforth or fluke style. When the anchor is deployed and sits down on the riverbed, the flukes dig into the ground, and it is important that the shaft of the anchor is horizontal to the riverbed, and that is one of the reasons why it is attached to a chain. The weight of the chain helps keep it down flat. As I've mentioned before, the chain also prevents snagging. If it was a rope, it could snag on something and possibly get cut through. Well, I'm pleased I've taken the time to look at and sort out my anchor. It could be a very important piece of kit. I am planning to cruise northwards this year onto the River Soar and then connect to the Trent and Mersey. And that is why I need to know that my anchor and cable are in good condition and fit for purpose. So as I say, I'm pleased I've sorted that out. It's taken me nearly 2 years to do it, but as I had no intention of going on a river initially, it hasn't been a problem for me, and all good things come to those that wait. I'm still very new to boating, and I have made it clear that I have no experience of dealing with an anchor, and I doubt whether many boaters have had actually to deploy them. But I am interested to hear of any thoughts anyone has on their use. in any particular circumstance, so please do leave me your comments. Meanwhile, as usual, I'll thank you all for watching. Hope you, your families and friends are keeping safe in these difficult times. Take care. Bye for now.